Hi everyone, welcome to the 2023 Advent series where we're just painting simple paintings, fun paintings that would put us in the heart, the spirit for Advent. This year I'm doing things a little bit differently. Each one of these will go together really nicely. In the past, we've been a little bit all over the place, or I've been a little bit all over the place with different themes each week, but these paintings are all going to look like they belong together, so hopefully that is something that's going to be fun, and we're going to do a little bit of journaling, or I'll share some journaling ideas for you. But all I have really on the paper here is I have some mountains down here, and that's all the sketching that I did. And I'm going to go ahead and just start painting today, and I'll talk through the painting. We are going to be painting stars with one big star, lots of little stars, and then we'll paint the Israel underneath, and we'll paint in the sky. And as you are aware, Advent is all about expectation and waiting. Waiting in the unknown and the unseen in the dark time, right? Especially at the beginning of Advent. So I'm going to go ahead here, and it is a rather cloudy day today. It's overcast, and the my lighting is not awesome if I use unnatural lighting. So what I'm going to do is we're just having, it really is truly dark as we start on Advent today. I'm going to go ahead here, and I'm just going to start laying down stars. And you can do stars however you like. I just have the big one right here in the middle, and on this big one I just put over it with a little bit more water, and I'm actually going to add a bit of gamboge to it. So I had, like, I think it was a lemon yellow. I'm going to add just a bit of gamboge just to give it a bit more of a pop. I'm going to reference a couple of verses, and I'll include them in the show notes that I was looking at. Isaiah, there's a couple of really well-known references to Jesus's birth in Isaiah 14, talking about, behold, the virgin shall have a son, he will be called Emmanuel, speaking of Jesus. And of Isaiah 9:6, unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given. And again, foretelling about the birth of Jesus and describing the kind of government that he would bring: Prince of Peace, mighty God, everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. I know my mom had me memorize that when I was little. Other verses in Micah, referencing that Bethlehem, the tiniest tribe, would be the one that Emmanuel would come from. It is interesting how what is unexpected, we have such interesting ideas about what greatness is in our world, right? Who is special, who is not. And in God's economy, things are very, very different. Advent is a time of waiting, and I think in our world of instant everything, we forget that waiting is a really important part of life. I'm going to go ahead and lay down the mountains below now. I'm just going to use some brown, maybe a little bit of green, but mostly brown. And the time between Malachi, the last book of the Bible, of the Old Testament, and then the New Testament was 400 years. So the Israelites, the people of Israel, they experienced silence. They didn't have Jesus, of course, yet, or the Holy Spirit, and God did not speak for 400 years. What a time to be alive, to wait without answers. And yet that was an important time of waiting. So just considering that, the how God uses waiting in all of our lives. I think it's interesting in the Bible as you read through it, the themes of waiting. God waits for us. We wait for him. It's fascinating, that theme of waiting, but waiting is hard. Waiting is not easy, and waiting without answers can be extraordinarily hard. And that's where that trust and that faith in God comes in. It's so important to wait in knowing that God is faithful, and he is here, and he is with us, even if we don't feel him. In the dark nights of the soul, in the hard times, in the good times, God is always here. But we sink into the waiting period in Advent. We just sink into that. There's a lot of good devotionals out there, and I am no scholar, that is for sure. But I do enjoy this practice of celebrating Advent every year, of participating in the hope and love and faith and focusing on waiting. I know there's a couple of good Bible studies as well. Some years I'm able to jump into them, some years not. But even just a few minutes every Sunday, reflecting on the theme of the week and on waiting, right? Okay, so now that we have the mountains, we have the stars, let's go ahead and put in our sky. This year, instead of going through a study, I'm going to be just looking up verses that have to do with that prophesied Jesus is coming, and I will be looking those up. And that might be part of the journaling aspect that you might want to do, reflecting on them, looking up when they came true. Now this is fairly wet, so what I'm going to do is there's going to be white in this painting around the stars so they don't turn into green, because we do not want green stars. I'll include the verses that I'm including in this week's Advent, and those are going to be the verses from Isaiah and chapter 7 and chapter 9, and Micah. There's also reference to John the Baptist in Malachi, and I'll put that too, because John the Baptist, of course, was part of Jesus's life and was one of the prophecies signaling that Jesus was coming too. He was the forerunner, and I'll add that in too. I just heard a wonderful message this past week at prayer meeting about Elizabeth and Zachariah and how they thought they were past their time. You know, they didn't have children. They never thought they were going to have children. They were very old. I'm sure they both thought their lives to a certain extent were over. They were just going about faithfully serving God, living their lives as a married couple, participating in the community. And Gabriel approaches Zachariah in the temple and completely changes his life. And it was just such a good reminder that we just don't know how God is going to work. And it's never too late for things to change. We never know when that waiting season is going to be over and action is going to happen. There are certainly some things that we get to do in this life and we get to influence and participate in. And there are other things that are they're just held from us, right? And it's just an area perhaps in your life of darkness, of waiting and not being able to influence. And that was Zachariah and Elizabeth, their heartbreak at not having children. And it's just a fascinating story. You can read it in the book of Luke. And it's a wonderful story to reflect on in the Advent season. So you can see now where this picture is coming to life. I have a couple different blues. I've got a phthalo blue and a cerulean blue. I think I have some ultramarine, so I like to do different shades of blue as well. But you see, I'm not getting too close to the star. I'm really working around it because I don't want green in this particular painting. So just moving around this. And the idea too with having Israel portrayed, is as far away, right? We're not seeing anything up close and personal, because when the prophecies were made, they were hundreds of years before Jesus came. They were very far away, and it was a long way out. And such a good reminder that God's timetable and our timetable are not the same. Often not the same. It can be very humbling. That's a period of people who did not hear God's voice. There was no prophets speaking to them. That was many generations of people. And we are here at a time in history. We just don't. We didn't have any choice of showing up now. That was all God who put us in different times in history. So may we serve Him and love Him and rejoice in His faithfulness no matter what season of life we're in, and in no matter what place or time of history we are in. There's a purpose for all of it. So I'm just moving around and finishing up here. You can see where I have some brown in there. I'm going to come back and fix that. Ideally too, I'm trying to keep these to maybe, I got a little green in there. Got a little yellow and blue merge. Trying to keep these to about 10 minutes. That way you can paint for about 10 minutes and just maybe think about, reflect on the waiting season that you may be in, or simply reflect on the season of Advent. I'm going to move this over here a little bit. I kind of like the look too of the white around the yellow too. It makes the stars pop, just a little bit of a different look. Okay, now I'm going to come back in. I'm going to fix this here. I do have a dry brush, so if you have a brush that does not have paint on it, or water or anything like that, you can take that dry brush and that will sop and just pick up that color paint like that. But then of course I want to go back in, and I'm going to come back in with my brown and just set that there. And that looks really good. We can just put that brown. And I was using both raw umber and burnt sienna because I wanted a bit of a depth here. Okay. Now, the only thing I really see that I want to change is right in here. It would just look a bit splotchy there. So if it looks splotchy anywhere, you know, go around either with some paint or even just dip your brush in your water, and move that around. And that looks really good. So this is going to be the first painting in our series. Again, we're about 10 minutes. I will include those Bible verses, so you could either write them around the edges once this dries and you take the tape off, or you could flip it around as well. And, you know, I'll give some ideas for journal prompts below, as well as those verses that I referenced. As we begin Advent, we go into this waiting season. We sink into that time of no answers, waiting on the Lord, rejoicing in his faithfulness. And no matter if we see things or feel things, he is here and he is with us. So happy first Sunday of Advent. I will see you soon.